Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Chiara, Cristiano, David, Frederick, Filippo, Giacomo, Yasmin, and Tommaso, I would like to welcome you to our session. Our team of volunteers is very humbled to be presenting our work in DARIAH in an audience full of dedicated digital humanities researchers and practitioners. Today, we're excited to introduce you to the Ludwig Wittgenstein project, a multilingual website that aims to make Wittgenstein's works available online, free of charge and with a free license. We shall begin by providing you with a current context and developments in technology and copyright that contributed to our decision to launch this initiative. And then we will continue with a presentation of the technical aspects, considerations, and challenges that we have worked through or that we are currently attempting to solve. But first, allow me a quick introduction. I'm Alexandra Zografou, the outreach coordinator at the Ludwig Wittgenstein project, and this afternoon I am joined by Michele Lavazza, founder and current head of the project. Now let's analyze the external factors that made this project possible. Undoubtedly, digital media have opened up endless possibilities for the world of publishing. Instead of requiring a sophisticated and at times expensive physical infrastructure, today anyone can define a set of procedures and publication standards digitally. This revolution has caused for the established frameworks and concept of traditional folio publishing, reading, and distribution to be deemed inadequate. At the same time, digital technologies have allowed the creation of new business models, content mediums, and distribution channels that have enabled new forms of content creation and dissemination. And as Guillet and Guglielmo accurately note, as publications have become increasingly digital, the creative community's interaction with copyright has evolved as well. However, there are works that are not copyrighted, the ones within the public domain. After the expiration of its copyright, this status signifies that a work can be freely reused without anyone having to ask for permission or remuneration. When it comes to cultural heritage, the public domain can accentuate a work's social, cultural, and economic importance and thus help to dramatically maximize its impact. In short, the public domain is an acceptable copyright status for free cultural works. And speaking of free cultural works, this is a concept that is tightly linked with Creative Commons. In case you're not familiar with Creative Commons, it's a non-profit organization that has been set up to modernize copyright laws by providing copyright licenses to individuals who can directly control the level of freedom they wish their work to have, and thus enable them to be part of a global commons of, in this case, creative or cultural works. Creative Commons marks the most permissive of its licenses as approved for free cultural works. But what does that mean? What does freedom mean in the case of a copy of a free cultural work or in a case of a work with a free cultural license? Creative Commons adopts the definition and freedom defined, according to which these works need to have 4 necessary characteristics. Number 1, freedom to use the work however you want with no restrictions based on the type of use. Number 2, freedom to acquire and use the information that it includes. Number 3, freedom to make and share as many copies as you want through any channel or medium, such as blogs, websites, books, CDs, or even sell these copies in stores. And number 4, freedom to edit, remix, and transform a work however you like, and then freely share these remixed copies. But it's important to distinguish between free and gratis. Both can be used to categorize intellectual property. The word free is used in one of these two meanings. One, with no or little restriction, libre, or at no monetary cost, gratis. Using a license such as Creative Commons can have great advantages for cultural heritage that, according to Terrace, include greater public awareness, increased discoverability, more opportunities for public participation in curation and enrichment, greater understanding of cultural heritage by communities, and use of cultural heritage materials for the creation of new works. This was the context that we leveraged to launch this project. However, our team aspired to take digital publishing one step further, not only releasing digital editions of Wittgenstein's already published works, but also producing high-quality translations of works in languages that these works were not available before for the first time. Ludwig Wittgenstein's works entered the public domain in countries with a copyright term of 70 years PMA in January 2022. Since that very date, the Ludwig Wittgenstein Project website has become a repository of Wittgenstein's works in the original language and translation, free of charge and with a free license. Our hope was to be able to remove the paywall that stands between the prospective reader and the texts, as well as make this text available to anyone who cannot access a library. At the same time, our team of volunteers is working towards collecting and translating material, as well as creating synergies with academics and scholars studying Wittgenstein's work. Supported by Wikimedia Italia, our project shares the movement's vision and mission, as well as follows its core values and guidelines. It's community-run and it's transnational. Wikimedia projects are community-run, as in they are run by self-governing distributed communities, but they're also transnational, meaning at times they have to comply with differing legislations, which implies a legal checking process by a team of volunteers. We believe that this model is worth understanding and possibly replicating. Our hope is to be able to contribute to discussions and efforts to increase discoverability, visibility, public awareness, and engagement in the field of digital cultural heritage. At the same time, we hope to be able to serve as a useful resource to anyone who's focusing on making high-level education resources available online freely. Many thanks for your attention. I will now yield the floor to Michele, who will take us through the technical aspects of the project.
The Ludwig Wittgenstein project focuses on publishing digital editions of Wittgenstein's works that have previously appeared in book form. Wittgenstein wrote a lot during his lifetime, but published very little. And most of what we now count as a book by Wittgenstein is the result of the editing process that his literary executors performed after his death. The raw Wittgenstein, the manuscripts and typescripts that form the so-called Nachlass, have been scanned and transcribed by the Wittgenstein archives in Bergen, and the output of this work has been available online for many years now. It's the result of 30 years of work, and it has been available for many years already. This is an incredibly valuable tool for researchers and Wittgenstein experts, but it is not very approachable for the general public. The Ludwig Wittgenstein project's editions focus on curated books, the edited version of what Wittgenstein wrote, because our target audience is a broader public made up of students, people who may know something about philosophy, but not yet know much about Wittgenstein. Therefore, our editions, here you see a screenshot of a typical web edition of our Wittgenstein works, are very clean texts that are easily readable online, as well as in various exported formats. What we already have on our website is good accessibility. So those HTML pages, an example of which you just saw, are accessible in terms of screen reader devices, contrast, and other features for visually impaired people. We have good mobile support, and very soon, a feature is coming for exporting the texts in several formats. One variant of the PDF export is already available. Another more sophisticated variant is coming. And then it will be soon possible to export those files in the Markdown format, which is a plain text format in which only the semantically relevant markup is preserved. This can be used to build upon, to generate other visualizations, other renderings, or further elaborations, remixes of the texts. And additionally, we're going to have EPUB and MOBI files for reading on ebook readers or mobile devices. The Ludwig Wittgenstein project is similar to some other projects that already existed in the field of philosophy, and the goal of which was to make the original texts of a given author available. For example, there are sites online where Kant's works can be found. There are websites in which Nietzsche's works can be found, and there is, for example, a site where a phenomenological library is available, so with the works of Husserl and other philosophers in the phenomenological tradition. Our project is similar to those, but it differs in one important respect, and that is we do not only propose the original texts, but also translations. Our project was, so to speak, born to be multilingual for several reasons. One reason being that Wittgenstein wrote himself both in German and in English, because he was a German mother tongue speaker, but he lived most of his life in England. Some of the translations of Wittgenstein's works were going to become public domain in the same moment in which the original would enter the public domain. Because, for example, Frank Plumpton Ramsay, the translator of the Tractatus into English, died before Wittgenstein himself. So when Wittgenstein works entered the public domain on the 1st of January 2022, the translation that Ramsay made was, so to speak, already in the public domain. And it would be obviously desirable to also make that available on the site. We were aware that independent translators had translated some of Wittgenstein's texts in their own languages, such as, for example, Portuguese and Italian, and were willing to publish their own translations for free and under a free license online. And this opened up the possibility of having many, many languages on the website. Now our vision and mission statement is to make Wittgenstein's works available online under a free license and free of charge in as many languages as possible. It should be kept in mind that this was bound to happen anyway. When an author's works enter the public domain, they tend to become available online. It's great. We think that this can be done in an organized way in one individual, unique repository. In general, it is our belief that we could propose a new model for the publication of the translations of classics. Normally, when a new book is published, the publisher takes an entrepreneurial risk, invests some money in the author's fee, as well as in typographical fees, etc., and then shares the profit with the author with a royalty-based agreement. When the translation of a classic is made and published, most often the translator is only paid once, and then the publisher profits from the translation for potentially decades, even after the translator's death. When this is not the case, when the translator receives royalties, this is often because the lump sum payment is very low and the entrepreneurial risk is essentially shared between the publisher and the translator. We believe that the cash outflow from the point of view of the public does not, in this case, in the case of the translations of classics, reward a risk that was taken by the publisher, but can rather be considered as a passive tax. And therefore, what we propose is to pay the translators to translate a text that is in the public domain, release the translation under a Creative Commons license that is an open free license, so that the public can then benefit for it forever without having to pay this sort of passive tax on it. What are our future plans? We are now looking to prioritize new translation that should be made according to this logic. So translators are going to get paid a reasonable lump sum, and then their work is going to become freely available forever. We're going to have to determine which translations we need to start with, because they don't exist yet in a given language, or because they are poor or outdated, and we would really like to give priority to underrepresented languages in the field of Wittgenstein studies. We also want to gather extant materials, because some originals can be published and have not yet been published on our site, and so we're going to have them uploaded as well. And there are extant translations out there that the authors might agree to publish on our website under a free license, and we are going to try and get this done as well. Additionally, the website can be improved from a technical point of view by the installation of a better search engine. So even though, of course, there is already a search feature available, which is obviously a major advantage of digital editions compared to paper editions, we're going to have a better one soon. We're going to provide links to other linguistic versions of the same text, not only from the translation to the original as it is right now, but also the other way around, which hopefully is going to make life easier for readers who want to compare different language editions. And we will try to integrate our project with the existing Nachlass transcriptions to also help researchers that need to trace the remarks that have been published in a book back to their origin in Wittgenstein's typescripts and manuscripts.